And so now it is my great pleasure to introduce Carl Homstad. Carl was born and raised in Denver, Colorado. He came to Decorah, Iowa as a college student and has remained in Northeast Iowa ever since. Carl may be best known for murals throughout communities across Iowa and the Midwest. In fact, from my office window, I can see 2 of his murals here in Decorah. But his 50-year career spans far beyond the walls of the buildings his murals adorn. We are very excited to share the exhibition with you. Not only will you see examples of Carl's body of work, you'll have the opportunity to learn about his creative processes, his career as an artist, and his personal journey. Thank you for taking us on these journeys, Carl.
One of the journeys that is represented in the show is the journey of my life. When you're an artist, then the story of your life is illustrated. Here at the exhibit, the life story is mostly shown on the internal panels. I was born in 1951 in Denver, Colorado, to 2 Luther graduates who were born and raised in the upper Midwest, Lucy Beth Hansen and Joseph Elias Homstad. I first arrived in Decorah in 1969 to attend my sister Mary's graduation from Luther College, and that was when I decided to attend Luther. I have been here ever since. Being an artist is not just a job. For me, it is a way of life. In order to live off my meager income, I decided to create the things I needed. In 1974, I went together with friends and bought 40 acres of land 7 miles north of Decorah. We named our place Springwater Village, and we still exist as a cooperative community. In 1978, my sister Mary died in a car accident. She was a fellow founder of Springwater Village and a Luther grad. I did this painting based on an old family photo and painted a black shape where Mary was because a death in the family leaves a permanent hole in your life. I painted my first mural in 1978 in Jefferson, Iowa. I would go on to paint more than 50 large outdoor murals around the Midwest. This one in Sumner, Iowa, I painted in 2016, and it will probably be my last one. In 1979, I married Andrea Austin, and we began to build our house. I made scale model furniture so I could design the shape and size of each room and where the stairs, doors, and windows would go. I worked for a while as a carpenter in order to learn something about building. I first built my studio. I took down a few old houses in order to get lumber, doors, and hardware. With the help of my friends, I did all the concrete, masonry, carpentry, sheetrock, roofing, wiring, plumbing, and finish work. In the summers, I would do odd jobs for area farmers, and at art fairs, I'd sell prints I had made during the school year. I also learned how to make picture frames and did that for myself and others. This is an isometric cutaway drawing of the house design. In order to save money, I designed the whole house, but built it in 2 sections. That way, I could pay for it as I went and did not have to have a mortgage. The first section in red was built between 1978 and 1982. The second section was built between 1982 and 1986. The house is passive solar and heated partly with wood. I added solar panels to the house and studio in 2021. In 1984, our first child, Paul, was born. It was also the year we paid off Springwater. In 1987, our second child, Amy, was born. She was premature and because of respiratory problems needed 24-hour care. When she wasn't an inpatient, we made our bedroom into an intensive care step-down unit and cared for her with the help from home health RNs. Amy passed away when she was 2 years old. I did this etching based on a drawing I did in the hospital the night before she died. I gave copies to the 30 or so people who helped us take care of her. Our third child, Lisa, was born in 1990. In this year, I was elected to the board of North Winneshiek School and served there for 9 years. Andrea went back to school and got a nursing degree. Her work as a nurse has contributed greatly to the family economy. In 1993, I remodeled the studio to include a gallery by having house movers jack it up 10 feet. I built an exterior wall and then had the crew set it back down. I had a cement floor poured in what used to be the crawl space. I had a philosophy minor in college, and I have always been interested in philosophy and theology. This painting I did as a junior in college. It was on the cover of Lutheran Brotherhood Bond magazine, and they sold hundreds of reproductions. I spent my junior year at Luther studying in Vienna, Austria. In the evenings, my philosophy teacher taught classes in the I Ching and astrology, and his wife taught yoga. It was then I got interested in alternative spirituality. This included an interest in C.G. Jung and mandalas. This first mandala represents the microcosm, atoms, electrons, photons, etc. The second one represents the ecocosm of nature and shows trees in the different seasons. The third shows what I call the theocosm with various religious symbols. And the fourth represents the macrocosm of the universe. Next, I started studying Kriya Yoga and meditation. This is a drawing from that time. Along with my interest in Asian art came an interest in Zen Buddhism. I started sitting at Ryomanji, a Zen Buddhist monastery in northeast Iowa. I continue to do that to this day. As a youngster in Denver, I was in a Boy Scout troop that went camping in the mountains every month year-round. Since then, I've been very interested in the outdoors, and that is probably why my art focuses on landscape. I camped across Europe with my wife, like here on the Isle of Skye. This painting is from the Boundary Waters. This painting is from a campsite on Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. And here is camping in the Grand Canyon. This painting is from a backpacking trip my wife and I took along the Continental Divide in Colorado. I have also done alpine skiing most of my life, and this ink wash painting is from Red Lodge, Montana. I also love cross-country skiing, especially in the backcountry. I also enjoy all types of boating. I have had several sailboats and sailed on many others, like this woodcut off Door Bluff. I like to kayak on the Mississippi, particularly during high water like in this painting, or as in this ink wash painting. This is kayaking in Alaska, and this is from a trip kayaking in the Apostle Islands. I enjoy being out in all kinds of weather, and I like to portray it in my art, as in this painting called Chores, or like the snow in this painting of New York City. There are two prints of rain in the show, Curtain of Rain and Rainy Day. Ever since my time in Austria, I have loved to be outside in the full moon, and many of my pictures are of night scenes. This is one of my first etchings. I did this painting when I was a student in Vienna. It is a painting of the Alps in the moonlight. This painting is of moonlight on thunderstorms from an airliner. Other pictures with moonlight are this painting from Lhasa, Tibet, and this one of a campground in Fayette. Also this one of Whitetail Cabin in the Porcupine Mountains in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. We have rented this cabin a couple of times, and you have to ski a trail more than a mile long to get there. Even though I am more than 70 years old, I have no intention of retiring from my job. In fact, I feel like I'm just getting good at what I do.
Thank you, Carl, for a special gallery talk, taking us with you into the gallery to talk a little bit about your life journey. And we're so pleased you can join us live today to answer some questions that we all have. And so for the audience today, a reminder that you can put your questions for Carl into the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. And I always enjoy these, just chatting with you while we wait for the guests to arrive on Zoom. And we were talking a little bit, and we were talking about your favorite color. What is your favorite color, Carl?
Well, my favorite color is blue, and partially because I have blue eyes. And when I started, most of the painting, or actually most of the artwork I would do would be in the winter time. So I used a lot of blue in my work for many years. And then I discovered that, not everybody likes winter pictures. So I would save ideas up from the spring and summer. And then I started to use a lot of green, and now actually I've been at it long enough that I actually use some yellow and red, and it takes a while to really learn how to use color, and I think being a woodblock printmaker has really helped me to kind of know how to use colors and what they do together and what kind of effect they have.
When we had a special exhibition of your work about 10 years ago, you had done a special program in the gallery for younger artists. And I remember that you'd pointed out something about the color red. Could you share that?
Oh yeah, yeah. They call it the National Geographic trick or effect. And many times when you're doing a landscape, it's sort of hard to tell the scale. So a lot of times photographers would take a red hat with them, or a red coat, or a red something, and then have somebody in the middle ground wear that hat. And so that would draw your attention to that area, and it would also give you a sense of scale. So I had the students go through the exhibit, and they found many examples of that. And if you did the same in the exhibit now, you would find examples of that too, because it's a pretty good trick.
Well, I've really enjoyed these video gallery tours with you, because I've noticed so many things about these paintings that I didn't in person. But it's a wonderful combination if you're able to. I'll tell our guests that if you're able to come in person and see them, plus getting to enjoy them here in the video, it's a wonderful combination to draw your eyes to these important details. We've talked about your favorite color. Do you have a favorite painting?
Yeah, I think the one from New York City in the snow is probably my favorite one. It's in this exhibit. Normally, my favorite painting is the one I just finished until I do the next one, but I think that one turned out particularly good.
The snow effect is really wonderful on that one.
Thanks.
When you were telling your family about your plan to become an artist, what did they think?
Well, they thought I was probably out of my mind, basically. My mother kept encouraging me to get a teaching certificate along with my degree at Luther, and I said I wouldn't do that because I didn't want to get distracted from my goal of becoming a full-time fine artist. And my dad sort of looked at me quizzically, but he never really questioned it too much, and he was later on he was quite proud of what I'd accomplished. So, and it was kind of funny because whenever I'd come home from an art fair or exhibit, he'd say, "How much money did you make?" And it kind of annoyed me at the time, but now nobody asks me that, so I kind of miss it in a way.
Well, we have a guest on that knew you at Luther College in your days as student. Do you happen to remember Rosie Eppens, who was a switchboard operator?
Oh, yeah.
She is on today, so
okay,
it's
good.
Fun to get some glimpses of your life from a couple different angles today.
Right. Yeah, well, it goes back a long ways.
Exactly. And there's another story that we've been asked for you to share. Dwight and Melinda from Iowa City asked you to share an anecdote about a job you took in 1970 painting a barn for Carl Sigmiller.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was just working, minimum wage work, and then it was actually Orly Signaler, I think. Anyway, he said, "Well, you're an artist. You could probably paint my barn for me." So I thought, well, okay. And so it's a big barn, and then so he had a 40-foot ladder, and it wouldn't quite get up to the very peak of the barn. So he got a hay rack, and then he put the ladder on the hay rack, and I don't know if nailed some boards there or something to hold it. And I would get on the very, very top of that ladder, and then I was painting, and they say, "Okay, now scooch the ladder back and forth and get back behind, where the ladder was." And so I, luckily I wasn't afraid of heights, and I haven't been since. But that was introduction that stood me good, well when I would paint murals and get up off the ground.
Of course, and just shows what an artist might have to go through to continue working as an artist, some of these other tasks. We have another question for you. Your life journey has taken you around the world. Aside from providing inspiration from new images, how have your travels impacted your life?
Everywhere I go, even if it's just to Iowa City or, Kansas or Nebraska, or, if I go to Paris or Vienna, I always go to the art museums. And I always find very interesting things to look at. In July, I'm going to fly out to New York City to see a show at the Metropolitan Museum of Winslow Homer's works. And seeing art in person is so much different. So I've been really lucky to see art in Japan and China in person and, around the world. And that was a big part of why I traveled and what I got out of it. And also just, learn about other cultures. And, one of the things that's really a lesson I've learned is that, I've been a lot of places, but Decorah area is the best.
Wonderful. And that was a question we had too, is which one place has been the most influential for you? And it sounds like that one place might be just Northeast Iowa or the area around your home.
Right. And in fact, 10 years ago, Vesterheim had an exhibit of my work, and it was called A Sense of Place. And it had just about the same number of pictures that this one does. But every one of those was from a quarter-mile range of my house. And so it was like a half mile diameter circle. And so, I've spent a lot of time exploring that area and painting that area. And then I hired a friend to do some video of that, and he's spent the last 10 years making a film about it. And it's called A Brush with Life, The Art of Being, Carl Homstad. And you can look that up online and see a preview, and it's been going around the film festivals, and in fact got an award from the Iowa Film Association or Iowa Motion Picture Association. They're going to show it at their awards ceremony this Saturday.
Oh, this is wonderful. And we are also hoping that perhaps we can arrange a showing in Decorah, maybe at Nordic Fest time in late July. So
yeah, great.
For everyone watching, you'll have to stay tuned. And if you're in the area, we hope you might come by. We would plan a live Q&A with Carl and with filmmaker Carl Henderson, if possible. So that's in the works, focusing on that sense of place from about 10 years ago. But that idea for you is really part of every day for you, not just 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. We wonder about what influence your mother had on your life and your journey as an artist.
Well, she was, like all mothers, really quite a big part of my life. And she and my father moved out here in the 80s. And then when my father died, she moved into town, and she immediately knew more people in Decorah than I did. And she was really an inspiration, not just in terms of, her help and encouragement, but also she was really a good person, and people really liked her. And She taught me a lot about being tolerant and a little bit more patient maybe than I might have been.
That's wonderful. Thinking about your life as an artist, as you mentioned in the video, this is not so much a career, it's really just a life that you've led. But 50 years is a long time for any sort of career or the work that a person does. How have you been able to do this for 50 years and still want to keep going?
Well, that's a good question because, I know a lot of people go to their job and get real tired of it. But the one thing I found that really helped me was I've kind of jumped around. All the media I do is two-dimensional, although I have dabbled in sculpture. But I've done a lot of forms. I've done drawing, ink, pen and ink wash, watercolor paintings, oil paintings, murals. I've painted sets for plays. I've done, of course, oil paintings, and then I've done a lot of photography, which I enjoy. And so, by jumping around to different things, and it's kept it interesting. And plus, art is the kind of thing that you can study forever and not get to the end of it. It's always something more to learn and something more to master.
Well, you have retired from painting murals for the most part, and you've
Right.
mentioned that one of the things you have coming up is an opportunity to see artwork in person. What other things are coming up for you?
I'm going to be going to Hawaii. My nephew lives there, and he's getting married at the end of June. And when I'm over there, I'm going to. I booked a flight to the little island of Kauai, which is where they filmed the beginning of the first Jurassic Park movie. And I rented a car, and I'm gonna spend some days there, wandering around, taking pictures, and getting ideas for landscapes. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, we are too. We'll look forward to seeing the results of that trip. Another question from our guests. Some people think that everything an artist makes is, in a sense, a self-portrait. Many of your early pieces seem more philosophical or introspective than your later pieces, which seem more representational of the world around you. Can you talk about this change?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't really think about my ideas and my pictures kind of that way. I just see something that moves me and then I want to make it. But part of that might be because of my interest in Zen Buddhism and practice of that. I guess my own personal effect in life and stuff might kind of take a back seat to nature and kind of the world around me, I guess. But it's not really a conscious thing, but I can see that happening, and I guess that's kind of led me to focus in on landscape.
Where we have a question about acquiring some of your works. We can mention that some of the works in the gallery at Vesterheim right now are for sale, but what about some of your prints and smaller pieces? How could somebody get a hold of one of those for themselves?
Well, that's a great question. I like that one. I have a website. It's carl@carlart.com, CARL @CARLART, one word.com. And I have a connection there to a online store at originalwoodcuts.com where you can purchase my woodblock prints, and you can just put your credit card in and then it takes care of it. The oil paintings are a little tougher than watercolors, but I have a lot of them on my website, and you can call me about they have the prices, but as far as the shipping and tax and other issues, I need to kind of clarify that with the buyer. I do have my artwork in several galleries, most notably the Iowa Artisans Gallery in Iowa City. They have a collection of my prints. I have them here in Decorah. They're available all the time at Agora, the Artisans Marketplace. I have them at the McNider Museum in Mason City, and I have some in McGregor, Iowa, and also in Spring Grove, Minnesota. And of course, I have my own gallery, which is located north of Decorah, 7 miles north of Decorah, and I am open anytime by appointment. So basically, if I'm there, I'm open. So you can come out and see the paintings and so on there. So and if they have any questions, they can find me online, send me an email or call.
Are you still doing art fairs and art shows?
No, I don't do art fairs any longer. I do sit by the museum at Nordic Fest usually and show my stuff because it's sort of a local thing and a traditional thing, but I don't travel to art fairs any longer. And I'm in a lot fewer galleries now, but just because between the recession in 2008 and COVID, a lot of them don't exist any longer, but I'm still looking to find some more. And then I'm working on a new website that'll be more interactive and have more opportunities to buy things directly. So, but I find that I'm kind of losing my knack for electronic and digital stuff, but maybe I'll find some high school kid again to help me.
Dave would like to know about making a living as an artist. It can certainly be challenging. Have you ever felt you had to make compromises in other parts of your life in order to pursue your art?
Yeah, I actually, in 2008, it got so bad, I applied for a couple of jobs, but fortunately I didn't get them because I don't know, I've probably been wrecked for a regular job. But I think I've been lucky in that I haven't had to compromise too much. I mean, I didn't want to teach because I didn't like going to meetings and I didn't like, bureaucracy, but I was able to do artists in the schools, which is a kind of teaching that paid pretty well and didn't involve a lot of extraneous stuff. And I've kind of found ways around the side. I did custom framing for a lot of people and made money that way. And then I've made a lot of money, not a lot, but I've made good, steady money selling note cards. They have them at the co-op here and in a few other places. And so just kind of combining a lot of different things. I've done some design work to help people decide what color to paint their building or some of the, kind of those types of things. And I do some commissions of watercolors of people's houses or businesses and that kind of stuff. So, like I said, I worked as a carpenter for a summer to learn how to do carpentry, and but pretty much I've been able to stay pretty close to the mission of making artwork.
This is actually a two-part question. So the first part you've answered about possible compromises to your life in order to pursue your art. So the other side of the question is, how has your dedication to art enriched other parts of your life?
That's a good question. One thing is that it's really made me appreciate art so much more. I mean, having seen so many original masterpieces and thinking about art and reading about art and all those things has given me a really good perspective on life, I think, and definitely a good perspective on, the visual aspects of life. And I'm a film buff. I think my Netflix history runs to about 12 single-space pages, and I enjoy, using what I've learned about the visual arts to, critique and analyze movies, and I get things, out of the movies, and and just just walking in the woods is a great experience because the art has taught me, a lot of different trees and birds and plants and animals and things about the weather and clouds and geography, topography, all those things too.
Now, I think you have relatives or ancestors from Norway. What part of Norway?
Yeah, actually, all my great grandparents came to the U.S. From Norway, and my on my father's side, they came from Homstad, Norway. So it's actually a place name, and that's where our surname comes from. And it's located on the Namsen River, just upstream from Namsos. And it's just really a group of few houses and barns and other things that might be maybe about the size of Highlandville or something like that. But if you Google Homestead, Norway, or Google Earth, you can see it out there on the banks of the river. And that's where my great-grandparents on my father's side came from.
Have you visited this place?
Pardon me?
Have you visited Homestead, Norway?
I haven't yet. My mom and dad and a lot of my cousins have, but I haven't actually been there yet. But that's on my kind of bucket list, I guess.
Just got to keep checking those off, those things from the list. This is our third video virtual tour with you. The second one, we were focusing on your career journey, and we know you've wanted to be an artist as a child. Did you ever entertain any other kind of career, even as a child? Did you think about some other role for your life?
Not as a child, but when I kind of mid-career, when I was doing a lot of murals, I thought it would be really a cool job to be a scenic painter on a movie set. They have people that stand by, and then if they want a door where there isn't one, they paint it, or if they paint a thing to look older than it is, or there's a lot of painting that goes on and in a movie, or used to be. Now I suppose it's mostly green screen and computer generated images, but at that time there was a cruise of people that would do that work, and I'd always, if I was at a movie I liked in the theater, I'd stick around and see how many scenic artists they had on the crew. And I have a friend that's been in the movie business, a friend from high school that I've kept up with, and he gave me some advice, but I never did make that leap. I did a little bit of stuff, but nothing. I never joined the union or got a steady job.
Have you thought about living somewhere other than Northeast Iowa? Since you moved here, it seems like this has been very much home for you.
Yeah, I always used to scoff at people that went south in the winter because I thought they, were lightweights. But I could see the wisdom of maybe going south in the winter. So I probably wouldn't move to Arizona or New Mexico or places like that. But I might spend January and February there.
Sounds good some years, definitely. What's the best piece of advice you've received as an artist?
Well, that's a good question. Orville Running, my teacher at Luther, gave me a really good piece of advice. He said, never, ever give your artwork away. He said, sell your artwork, take the money, buy somebody a present. Because if you give it away, people won't think it's worth anything. Because it was free to them, and so if if people buy it, they'll treat it with respect. So, and that was a helpful thing. Although I have given away a lot of artwork, most of the times, I do sell it. That's been helpful.
I think we have time for one more question. Some journeys include detours. Have there been unexpected detours in your journey, or has it gone pretty much the way you thought it would?
Oh yeah, there's been tons of detours. My family life, there's been tragedy, and there's been very great events too, good events. But the tragedies, were detours. There was a kind of a big detour in the beginning because I thought, being a full-time fine artist was going to be a lot easier than it turned out to be. But, I persevered, and, like I said, I combined a lot of different aspects and made a lot of choices that saved me money. And, I have no regrets. I kind of kept on track as pretty much most of the time.